My name is Jennifer Van Ostren, and on behalf of ACRL and Choice, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Discovery Easy, Delivery Critical, sponsored by ProQuest and featuring Jeff Wisnowski, Bonnie Imler, and Eddie Newworth. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from ACRL and Choice that addresses new ideas, developments, and products of interest to the academic library community. Free to users, these structured 60-minute live presentations provide the opportunity for interactive discussions of important new issues and developments in academic librarianship by librarians, vendors, authors, and other interested stakeholders. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of the webinar software. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. Along the left-hand side, you will also see a Q&A panel that you can use to submit questions or comments. We will spend some time responding to your questions during the program, so please feel free to submit these throughout. And finally, please note that today's program will be recorded and all registrants will receive follow-up instructions on how to access the archived version. First up, we have Jeff Wisnowski. Jeff received his MLS from the University of Pittsburgh School of Information Sciences. He is the Web Services Librarian for the University Library System at the University of Pittsburgh, where he maintains the library system's public website, staff, intranet, coordinates technical support for Pitt's university-wide ETD program, and product manages new technology initiatives. He has served as a visiting lecturer in the School of Information Sciences at the University of Pittsburgh, has published in such journals as IRSQ, Online, and Computers in Libraries, has taught numerous technology workshops, and is a frequent presenter at web and internet conferences. Bonnie Imler is the Library Director at Penn State Altoona and the Web Usability and Assessment Coordinator for Penn State University Libraries. Her research focuses on user experience and specifically actual student usage of library electronic resources. She has conducted studies on student use of full-text articles, databases, link resolvers, and ebooks. She has published articles on her usability study results and the use of screen capture video as a means to capture and analyze human-computer interaction. Finally, we have Eddie Newworth. He is a Senior Product Manager, Discovery Services for ProQuest Workflow Solutions, where he has been a lead team member in developing the groundbreaking Summon service and is responsible for the next generation 360 link resolver. After earning an MFA degree from the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television, he has worked at several digital media and technology startups, including one that pioneered federated search technology for libraries, WebFeet, which eventually brought him to ProQuest. He has over 10 years of experience in delivering innovative discovery products for libraries, and in his current role works closely with clients to optimize the academic research experience and to understand the impacts of technologies on discovery. With that, I'd like to turn things over to Jeff.
We're currently experiencing some audio issues with Jeff. Please hold on.
Hi, this is Bonnie Imler. While we're waiting for Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and do my part of the presentation, then maybe we'll go back and take a look at his here then too. So, okay, please bear with me while I go through just a few slides here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my part. And I need to explain first that I'm going to be referring back to several studies. And I just wanted to fill you in on what these studies are about. So one of the first ones is...
Hi, this is Jeff.
Oh, hi. Okay, we have Jeff back. I'm going to go ahead and take him back to the slides then.
Sorry about that. The joys of technology.
Okay.
So have we covered any of this introductory content?
No, go ahead with yours.
Okay. I think you probably all have been welcomed to the webinar, but if not, let me welcome you to this this presentation. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about linking in the context of discovery. So, you know, the discovery portion of this process has gotten a lot of attention, has gotten a lot of mind share, has gotten a lot of development over these past couple of years, such that we're able to put on a webinar with a title called Discovery Easy, with a straight face. But I think, I think that nobody would argue that the discovery part of the process is perfect at this point, but certainly there's been a lot of progress made in discovering content. But I think what we wanted to shed some light on was the fact that the discovery portion is really only part of the process. In most cases, users aren't looking to discover content simply for the joy of searching for content. They're looking to discover content so that they can the linking portion of this whole process is sort of a set it and forget it technology. So we all sort of paid attention to our link resolvers when we were setting them up. We pay attention to them maybe if something goes horribly wrong. We maybe pay attention to them if there is some sort of significant update that requires our attention. But I think our general assumption usually is that these things are in the background and they're doing their job, and it's something that we really don't need to be thinking about. But there are a couple of problems with those assumptions, probably the most critical of which will allude to. Statistics vary, but somewhere between 5 and 30% of OpenURL links fail. And through your link resolver, but now they have to choose a link to click on to get to the full text. There are a lot of places there where users tend to fail. So the point that we want to make is that the sort of the linking part of this whole process is as critical to of these OpenURL link resolvers in terms of their relationship with our licensed library electronic resources, and most often our discovery systems. And it's true that there are critical components for that part of the process, but we also know discovery like Google Scholar. So if you think about your link resolver and your link resolver sort of landing page in that context, for a user who has, for example, done a search on Google Scholar, found that there are full text is your link resolver landing page. And again, as I think Bonnie is going to speak to, those pages are in a lot of cases anything but user-friendly. So those are a couple of things to think about when we're thinking about this sort of linking piece in relation to discovery. I think that we are going to have a poll that's going to be appearing on your screen. So if you are interested in sharing your opinion with us, we would love to know what you think. So the last point that I want to make before handing it off to Bonnie is that OpenURL is a technology that's been around quite a long time. So we're now looking at a technology, a standard, that is just about 10 years old. So on the one hand, that's great. We've had a standard that we've been working with for 10 years. The problem is that, 10 or more years into the process, there has been relatively little improvement in either A, the reliability of OpenURL linking, so that 5 to 30% failure rate is no different today than it was 5 or 7 or 9 years ago, and that's problematic. Nor has there been very much improvement in sort of the user experience part of the whole OpenURL linking landscape. So, even though this technology has been around a long time, this technology is not working very well, nor is it particularly user-friendly. And with that, I think I will hand it off to Bonnie, who is going to, I think, help illustrate to us just how user-unfriendly these technologies can be.
Thanks, Jeff. It's nice to have you back. So I am afraid that this is going to be a little bit of a downer here, what I have next. But I think it's probably something that you'll be able to relate to. As I had mentioned before, there's 3 studies that I'm going to be referring to, and actually the second one listed there, the Do They Get It? This was related to SFX citation linking software. And then the follow-up study that I did was with why are our students printing abstracts instead of full text. So the third study is not published, and it's an internal Penn State study, and that was on 360 link resolver. So if you hear me referring back to those, these are the links here for the actual articles. I do want to mention, if you hear me saying we, it's because I'm referring to Michelle Eichelberger, who's my research partner, and she's from Genesee Community College. And I just wanted to mention that so you don't think I have a mouse in my pocket or something. The first thing to cover is everything on the right-hand side. For our students, the full text article truly is the goal, the prize, the desired product. If we were a factory, this would be our widget. This is what our students are expecting. This is what they want. And as it says on the left-hand side, if it doesn't appear immediately, they will print the abstract because they can't find the full text. They'll click back to the results page. And what frequently happens is give up on the database altogether. We like to think as librarians that link resolvers are just magical things. And they really truly are compared to the kind of the bad old days. And when I think of the bad old days, it can be as far back as looking in print indexes and looking up in print journals and newspapers, or even the bad old days can be when we had several databases that did have limited full text and we had to try to guess which subscription belonged to which database when we were helping students. And I think because a lot of us can remember those days, that it's really easy to get frustrated when we see students not willing to take a couple mouse clicks. Because we know how powerful those couple mouse clicks are. But in reality, a lot of our students now are used to having things happen instantaneously. They're just not used to having to search or wait around for things to happen. Okay, with each step in the discovery process, truly, I have watched this again and again, that we just keep losing a percentage of students each time we make them do a single click. And for us as librarians, it is just a number of mouse clicks. It's no big deal. But a lot of times with each click, not only do our students get discouraged, but they also feel as if they must be on the wrong path. And I can't emphasize that enough. It, unless you're really giving them good breadcrumbs, they think that they have taken a wrong turn because they thought that when they clicked on a link that said full text, that they were just going to naturally go to the entire article. In the SFX study that we did, 33% never located or explored the SFX button at all. And I should explain with that what we as librarians consider to be a button. Later kind of found out that a lot of the students didn't think it looked like a button, and that's an important part. Also at the time, the SFX button this was specifically through ProQuest, was located on the right-hand side of the screen. And that was, at the time, was not a common place for navigation. So left-hand, it was always on the left-hand side. So we had a couple of things kind of working against us with that. Oops. Sorry, let me click here. Of the 67% that found it, 23% did not follow through to the very last click that took them to the linking database. In this case, that process was at least 3 clicks to get there. And students were most successful if the last click went directly to the full text of the article. So the ones that did follow through to the final click, 7 printed the abstract instead of the full text because the full text link was not apparent in that database. And some of the roadblocks that would come up, if they got a wait page, so if they got a page where that was just for them to wait until the new database loaded, that was a problem. A lot of students would click off of that immediately. If they got to an open search box of a database but no sign of the original article title, and we know that that can happen quite frequently. So they've been searching for this title. They found a link that says that it's going to take them to the full article, and instead it takes them just out to the basic database search screen. And when that happens, I've watched this so many times on screen capture videos, they just freeze, like they don't understand what happened, and very, very few will type in the same search term. I did notice that I do have a question on here, and it said, is that 7 people or 7%? Actually, that was 7 participants in that particular study, and that study had 39 participants. So you can kind of follow that then through as to how very few even got to that point. But out of that, the only ones that successfully printed the full text were ones that went to databases that immediately opened up the full text of the article. So, so if it didn't go to that, if it went to what my last point is here, if they got to the citation abstract page, and that's where there's still one more step to go on to the PDF or to the full text HTML. But if they got that far, that was the end of the road. They just printed the abstract then. Okay. So this is from the 360 link study that I did. That was the internal study. And I just wanted to show you that, first off, so 13% of the participants did not ever reach the citation abstract screen because they were at a loss when they clicked on the database or the journal name and did not see mention of their article title. I think for us as librarians, we see that word article, we're like, why didn't they click on article? I should point out, as you can see here, none of these had an underline under them. And I'm starting to find in my research that an underline still means link to a lot of our users. So that's one thing. But also, they tend to want to, we'll talk about this in a second here, but they tended to go towards long links also. So you have to figure that in. But they were at a loss when they would click on these two for the reason that I just gave, was that if you clicked on journal or you clicked on the database name, then you had to redo your search. And our students just wouldn't do that. Okay. All right. In the also in the 360 link study, when they actually clicked on article right next to the academic search complete, 36% did not find or use the full text link then. So 36% of them then stopped at this screen. So even if they knew enough in the previous screen to click on the word article, the link article, if they had a choice of two databases, if they chose the other one, it was easier to navigate, and they all found the full text off of that. But if they happened to choose this particular database, 36% stopped at that screen. All right. So this was the overall assignment, and it was to go to this URL. It was quite a basic assignment. Enter that particular title in the search box and find the entire article. The result was, okay, 40% of study participants could not complete this assignment to find the entire article. So either immediately they chose journal or database and got stopped there, or if they did click on article, depending on which database they chose, they didn't know how to go on then to get the full text of the article. So a basic 3-step assignment, and 40% were unable to complete it. Okay. Librarians do click on format, and students do click on the longest link. And I found this out in the very first usability study I did. I apologize for the quality of the graphic at the top here, but this is, for anyone who remembers, this is kind of old ProQuest. And when I would get a results screen in old ProQuest, I would naturally be drawn to the full text PDF or full text or Get It, which was the name of our SFX link. But what I found when I did this study was that out of 39 participants in it, 39 clicked on the long title link and did not click at all on the format. And I found that really interesting. Actually, in the study, I had set up coding buttons so that I specifically could tell whether they were clicking on just full text or full text PDF. And what I found was I never used any of those coding buttons. So the similar study with 360 link found kind of the same thing, that even though it wasn't the majority, still there was a tremendous number of participants who clicked on the database name, and the only real reason that we could come up with was that it was the longest link, because I really doubt that there was much name recognition by students for like Taylor and Francis. So my guess is that they were clicking on it because it was the longest link and because it was centrally located there. And you can see of the students who chose the database link, 2/3 came back and then clicked on article, but we lost a third right there. They tried to find the article from the database then. So very few of them, or 2/3 of them, did come back and then clicked on article, but the other ones tried to find their way through then. All right. Bring up the screen. So the stumbling blocks to delivery, and this has been found in actually all 3 of the studies. I see that I have a question up here. Let me see if I can see the whole question. Okay. Okay, was it always the longest link, even if the longest link was the second result, or did the students typically choose the first link? I think in the ProQuest case, I think the longest link was kind of the first link on there, so I think that's why they were choosing it. And once again, we're not sure with the longest link as far as the 360 link study went it was very centrally located. So that could be a part of it too. We would really have to kind of poll the students then. And unfortunately, we do this all so that it's anonymous, and we're actually screening the screen captures. We're coding those after the fact, so we can't go back and ask them. But that is an interesting question. Some of the stumbling blocks that we had to delivery, and you can see on here, font size is very important for those of us who used to do a lot of, and maybe still do a lot of HTML coding. We were really told that to use those H1 through H6 headings in HTML because that showed importance, that showed what was important at the top of the screen. You'll find that often the link to full text in a database, that link is even smaller than the regular text. And I really can't explain that because, once again, this should be the most important part. This is kind of the product that they're looking for, and a lot of times it's an even smaller font size. The other thing is this vague, inconsistent labeling. So we have view PDF, HTML version, full text. Sometimes we just have the graphic there for the PDF. Nothing says article if you think about it, and a lot of times the assignments given are for them to find an article, and the word article does not appear there. In the abstract full text study, we actually asked students to define the term abstract, full text, and PDF after they had gone through the tasks. More than half were able to define the terms, but only 25% were actually able to find and print 5 entire articles off of 5 different databases. So they were fairly familiar with the terms as far as defining it, but that still didn't mean that they were locating it, that it was, they were locating them on the screen and that it was evident to them. And I have on here that if it was apparent, they wouldn't scroll. We found that 88% scrolled to the bottom of the screen on at least one of the databases, when in every single case the full text links were up up on the top before the first fold, as we like to say in the designing world. So all the links were up there, but 88% of them scrolled clear to the bottom of the page looking for a way to get the full text. And I think that really shows that if they clearly recognize these types of words, HTML version and everything, they would not do that because everything in the research says that our students don't like to scroll. So branding, I mentioned before, the Get It button that we had didn't really, to our students, look like buttons. So buttons do need to look like buttons. I mentioned about links being underlined. That still kind of indicates link to a lot of our users. Also, branding can't look like a third-party advertisement. So you have to worry about that with when you pick kind of catchphrases and stuff for your link resolver, if you're allowed to pick that at your location. Be careful about that. Also be careful of the colors that you use and kind of how flashy it is, because if they sense that it's a third-party advertisement, they're not going to click on it at all, even though it is a purchase service. Okay. The last thing was loading, and the big thing with loading is their impatience, and page loading web pages should only say just wait. At the time that we were doing the SFX study, there was one particular database that the waiting page was just full of text, and it immediately started out, if you are not seeing this article, and it would tell you everything that could possibly go wrong. And so when that would come up, the students would click back so fast. They would hit the back arrow on the browser so fast that it would make your head spin. So that's another thing to consider. A waiting page just needs to say, just wait. And if it can have one of those little clocks on it, or if it can give some sort of line showing that loading is happening, that's even better. And I think I think I'm finally at about the end here, and there will be a poll coming up here for you too before Eddie takes over. Okay? There you go, Eddie.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. And again, while you're answering our poll here, just a quick reminder that once that poll disappears, you'll actually see a few web links in your console there that you can actually get to some of the articles and research that Bonnie was talking about, as well as some additional information about 360 links. So feel free to navigate through those links. And then I will be moving us forward in our discussion, but we will open it up at the end for about 10 or 15 minutes of open Q&A for either myself or Bonnie or Jeff. So if you want to just hold on to your questions until then, we will open things up. So thanks, Bonnie. I think I will move forward here and continue our conversation about discovery easy. As Jeff said, we can say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, and delivery critical. As a product manager for a link resolver for 360 Link, Bonnie, you're certainly a tough act to follow. But I do completely agree. It's great research, and the comments that Jeff made as well are really things that everybody can relate to. Link resolver technology has been around for a while now. And it certainly has presented some challenges. Hopefully I'll be able to provide a few bright spots today. When we talk about link resolvers, hang on a sec, a little bit of, hold on. Oh, I think the link's finally loading here. Hang on a sec. Oh, I think it's working. Oh, no full text, sorry. Well, a little bit of a joke there on linking reliability, a little bit of an online humor. We all know link resolvers are less reliable than we would all like them to be, and that's really no surprise. And so the two things that sort of Jeff mentioned, which are that OpenURL technology has been around and has had some reliability issues, are pretty well known, and the research that Bonnie has done really illuminates that even when links work, there's quite a lot of challenges. And so it's no wonder that linking is one of the top complaints of library end users. And certainly we see that at ProQuest. And so part of it is due to, as mentioned, OpenURL linking technology. It just is something that is a predictive technology that sometimes it's not the fault of the OpenURL, the link resolver vendor. Sometimes it's not the result of the publisher. Sometimes it has to do with the library's holdings information. There's lots of things that can happen that cause OpenURL links to commonly fail. But the fact is your end users don't really care why. They just have that frustrated experience of they've discovered something. They want to just get to that article. They want that immediate full text, and they end up at this sort of failure point. And as Jeff mentioned, that actually does reflect poorly on the library. Often that's what their perception of the library is. And then Bonnie's research sort of illuminates a whole bunch of things, which is, even if these links work, your users still have to navigate through this thing called a link resolver, this process of using a link resolver to get to content. And there's many sort of failure points along the way, as Bonnie did a great job of pointing out, where users either stop or just fail to actually click through all the way to the full text. And so when you put these two things together, there's going to be a certain percentage of links that just don't work for whatever reason, and then you layer that on top of making our users go through this process of having to figure out what to click on or how to use this menu to get to that full text. It really is no wonder that that linking is a top complaint of library end users. And so there's kind of three primary reasons and sort of three primary areas that we sort of see as these stumbling points. One is link reliability, obviously, is a challenge. And then some of it's just a user interface issue. A link resolver itself is kind of foreign concept. If a user's searching in Google and they click on a page that they want to get to, they just go right to it. They're not asked to navigate through some sort of intermediary steps to get to that full text, or that prize, if you will, as Bonnie was mentioning it. And some of it is just the user expectations. Does a link resolver work, seamlessly enough and fast enough, and, by clicking the right thing, does it take users where they expect to go? And so at ProQuest, we've sort of recognized all of these challenges. And despite having a link resolver that's been widely recognized as being one of the most reliable on the market, and certainly have a very large customer base and people have been using it for a long time, we knew that we needed to invest in linking innovation. It was long overdue, and for some of you who are 360 Link customers on this webinar, you're probably saying, well, what took you so long? And really, this OpenURL technology is something that's just been sort of taken for granted. It's been around for more than a decade now. And as Jeff mentioned, there's really relatively little improvement, and it's not for trying. There's been a lot of great people and librarians and vendors who have come together to work on trying to improve it. But we've only really seen these kind of incremental improvements in that technology itself. And then when you put that in the context of what's been going on in your libraries over that same decade or so, and what's been going on outside of your libraries in terms of technological advancements and your users' expectations. One, your library collections have continued to grow electronically, exponentially. And so, again, the link resolver becomes more and more important to get your users to that full text. And then you sort of think about all the technological changes, the sort of rise of Google and iPad being invented and new mobile technologies, and your users have changed, and their expectations for how this stuff should work has also changed along the way, and yet there's been very little improvement in linking technology. And so we really, this year, at ProQuest, really went on a mission to sort of improve what linking could be and sort of reinvent what linking could be for libraries. And a lot of that was, I have to say, inspired by some of the research that Bonnie had done and others. And so putting this in the context of discovery, we can say that discovery is easy. It's really not, but a lot of libraries have invested in discovery services. What you're seeing here are just sort of examples of results pages from the EBSCO Discovery Service, Ex Libris Primo Discovery Service, OCLC's Discovery Service, and we can put the Summon Discovery Service sort of in this context of these new library technologies that have really been widely adopted over the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years that really allow your users to now, find that single search box on your library homepage, enter a couple of keywords, and your users can get hundreds, thousands, possibly even millions of results with just a simple mouse click. But then they get to a page like this, which shows them is sort of a results page, and that challenge of sort of how to actually get them to the content that they want still exists. And so if you look at these result pages, and we kind of sort of see that there's often a whole bunch of places on these result pages that are actually links that could get a user potentially to the full text. And some of that, what Bonnie was talking about is, what are users going to click on? And it's very important to sort of do these usability studies and sort of look at, we might think that, oh, it's very clear, there's a link to a full text there. But more often than not, users aren't actually clicking on those links. And so when we sort of take the next step here and kind of sort of heat map what users actually do click on these pages, it really falls in line with Bonnie's research, which is more often than not, they just click the title. And they expect that title to take them to the full text. And when you look at these discovery services, more often than not, the thing that users click on is the one thing that actually would not take the user to the full text from these pages. And so again, we're sort of presenting these, either the user's taken to some sort of intermediary page within the discovery service or taken off to a link resolver page and then asked to navigate from there. And it's no wonder that users complain about linking being the challenge, not necessarily discovery. So one thing we've done is sort of try to solve this problem in the Summon service. We came out about 2 years ago with a technology called indexed enhanced direct linking. And so what we did in the Summon service was we recognized that most users are just going to click that title, and they expect to click that title and expect it to take them directly to full text. So we initially rolled out the summon service about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, and that link used to just interact with the library's link resolver. Today, we have what we call index-enhanced direct linking, and what we're able to do is actually bypass the link resolver with a much more reliable and stable linking technology. What we have with the summon service is this massive index of content. It's over 2 billion items at this point, and we get a ton of metadata directly from publishers. So publisher-provided metadata, and we're able to use that metadata in conjunction with sort of a rights management knowledge that we know about your library's holdings and what we know about where these articles reside, and we're able to provide more stable direct links, what we call IEDL links for short. And so that's great. In the summon service, we've sort of been able to solve a lot of these challenges of linking. And IEDL links are not just for ProQuest content. I just want to be clear, it's not just taking people to the ProQuest platform. There's over 370 providers right now that provide content within the summon service that are participating with IEDL linking. That represents content from more than 4,000 databases, and we're really talking about being able to directly link to hundreds of millions of articles through direct linking and sort of bypass a lot of these challenges of the OpenURL technology. And the advantages of IEDL over OpenURL are pretty obvious. One, it just requires fewer end-user clicks. So user clicks on the title, they go directly to that content. But the key thing is that they're near 100% reliable. So compare that to 5 to 30% or whatever the number is of OpenURL links that can commonly fail. Near 100% is pretty good and a vast improvement for your end users. We're able to make these near 100% reliable because, again, we're relying on sort of pre-indexed content and sort of as opposed to the sort of predictiveness of OpenURL technology. And with OpenURL, I'll just kind of explain that briefly. Typically, we're getting what we call a referring URL, a referring metadata from a source. That metadata comes in when a user tries to link to an article. That metadata is then thrown against our knowledge base, and same for any link resolver vendor. It's kind of matched up against an internal knowledge base, and then a link is thrown back out to that provider. And if everything matches up along the way, user gets the full text. But there's a lot of places where that data can sort of break down along the way. IEDL linking really eliminates at least 2 out of 3 of the most common failure points, data points along the way with OpenURL, and so we end up with a much more successful experience. And so again, that's great. If you're a summon user or a summon customer today, a typical user will see 60 to 65% or more of their links from the discovery service invoke what we call an IEDL or Index Enhanced Direct Link, and the user goes directly to the content in a pretty reliable way. Well, that's great if you're using the summon service, but if you're not, and this goes back to what Jeff said, we actually know that not everyone's going to be using the summon service. Not everyone's going to be starting their research at your library website, and so a lot of traffic to your resources is coming from Google Scholar or PubMed or Scopus or any number of other sources where your users are actually starting. And so in those cases, it really is the link resolver that is, as Jeff said, that homepage to your library, or the entry point to your library, or as I like to say, it's sort of the bridge to your library resources. And so the link resolver becomes more and more important. So what we've done is in this just past July, we sort of relaunched a reinvented 360 link. And we had some great beta partners that I have to mention, Cornell University, Bowling Green State University, Duke University, and East Carolina University that really invested a lot of their time to do usability testing and provide feedback along the way. And what we came up with was a way to sort of transform the link resolver in a couple of ways. The first thing we did was to improve the linking reliability by integrating the Index Enhanced Direct Linking technology from the summon service into 360 Link. So what that means is even if your library is not subscribing to the summon service, as long as you're using 360 Link, you can take advantage of this great new and improved technology over OpenURL. And the second thing we did was create essentially a new user experience, which we hope addresses many of those challenge points that Bonnie brought up in her research, and those sort of stumbling points for users. And we call this our new Sidebar helper frame. I'll show you an example of it in just a second. And it really provides a more seamless and intuitive user experience. That's sort of one-click access to the content for your users, and again, sort of is geared toward eliminating most of those sort of common confusion and failure points. This is just a quick sort of schematic of this. Imagine you're that little blue researcher up at the top. It's very easy to do your research. You get some search results coming back, and you click on that link, and typically there's a barrier to cross to get to that full text. And so what we introduced is what we call the Sidebar helper frame. That's that sort of frame over on the right-hand side. And within that frame, we're able to actually load up the full text of the article. So off on the right, and I'll just show you a quick, a closer look of that. Off on the right is what we call our Sidebar helper frame, and what you'll see is all of the sort of typical information you'd see in a link resolver, your citation information, your article title information, and additional links, and then off on the left, the actual full text loads up. Now, what makes this actually useful and helpful is that in the event that for some reason the full text didn't load or wasn't intuitive for the user, this right-hand frame provides additional options for to try a different source, try a different link. It provides options for unlimited sort of custom links that the library can put on. So if the library wants users to click through to other services or try ILL or something like that, provides access to that. And at the very bottom, maybe a little hard to see, but there's even an opportunity to integrate a chat function. So imagine actually a librarian helping a user in real time and actually chatting with a user in real time in the event that they struggle getting to that full text that they were looking for. The advantages I've sort of mentioned are pretty obvious of the sidebar. Again, they really provide that opportunity for the library and librarians to be sort of more embedded in the research workflow of the user. It's clearly more seamless for that user. It's one-click direct access. This new sidebar, as I mentioned, really combines the IEDL technology, Index Enhanced Direct Linking technology, as well as OpenURL technology. So users are getting sort of the best of both worlds in terms of being able to get the most reliable links and the most direct links to that content. And then just to sort of, in case you were wondering, it does actually collapse out of the way. So the library can set certain preferences. So if they want, they can have it actually collapse out of the way and just be this very thin little toolbar off on the right-hand side. The key aspect there is it can be branded with the library branding. I think that was also something that was important in the usability studies. And what that really does is also ensures that the library gets credit for this providing the content. So as Jeff mentioned, a lot of users might be coming from Google or Google Scholar. One of the things we hear is if these links work great, then it just sort of reinforces the notion that, wow, Google's awesome. I'm going to keep using Google. And your users don't actually quite realize that it's a library that's paying for access to that rich content. And this provides more branding opportunities and a more persistent presence for the library within that workflow. And as I wrap up here, we're way beyond the sort of beta stage at this point. As I mentioned, we went live in July. We now have hundreds of libraries that have adopted the new sidebar functionality for 360 Link. The feedback has been almost overwhelmingly positive. Lots of great feedback that it's certainly an improvement over the previous OpenURL menu functionality, and libraries are really enjoying this opportunity to brand the service and be part of that researcher workflow. And just to just wrap up here, one final comment is, we at ProQuest have been probably more supportive or as supportive of any other vendor at sort of establishing and improving the OpenURL standards. We're certainly not abandoning that in any way. What we're talking about here with Index Enhanced Direct Linking and our new sidebar is it's really additive to the technologies we've had before. And so for 360 Link users, they really get this combination of indexed enhanced direct linking when we're able to use that technology. If for some reason we don't have an IEDL link available for something, we fall back to OpenURL. And then we also are combining it with this new user experience that, in the event that links fail or are problematic for users, the sidebar provides opportunities for the library to be there and to help guide users really at the point of need in linking to content. So with that, I think we are just going to open it up here to questions. Feel free to use the Q&A functionality of the console, and feel free to direct your questions to myself or Bonnie or Jeff.
Right now, Eddie, we don't have any questions. If somebody wants to use the Q&A panel to ask a question, we will then repeat that question, and then we will assign it to the particular speaker.
Great. And I'll also just point out, again, there's web links and file share. Those are opportunities for you to link off to more information, either about 360 Link or about Bonnie's research, and that's available to you as well.
Eddie, we have our first question in. How soon will the sidebar be available to everybody?
Great question. The sidebar is actually available to everybody now. We released that in July, late July. We still are working on actually even more enhancements to the whole 360 Link product, but you are able to take advantage of the sidebar now. If you're an existing 360 Link customer, just send a note to our support team that says you'd like to turn it on, and all they need to do is turn on a access to it for you in your admin console, as in your 360 Link admin console. And then all you'll need to do is go into there, and you're able to configure it and add your logo and things like that and set your preferences. And then you're able to check a box that says turn on the sidebar live. So that way you're able to play with it and test it out without impacting your current 360 Link setup, but you can turn it on live. And as I mentioned, there are actually hundreds of libraries that have actually already turned it on live.
Eddie, the next question is also directed at you. What does the sidebar helper look like in Google Scholar?
Good question. The sidebar helper is not actually in Google Scholar. What you'll see is with 360 Link and other link resolvers as well, is you're able to actually just have a little link off on the right of your results page in Google Scholar that'll say, you can actually customize it. It's not a button. It's actually a text link because Google Scholar only accommodates text. But you're able to, it'll just have a text that says full text at my library or find it or whatever it is that you'd like to customize that link to say.
The next question for you is also for you, Eddie. What is the function of the 360 Link in Summon?
Well, Summon works by Summon linking, where if you subscribe to the Summon service, has a couple ways to link to content. One is indexed enhanced direct linking, and so that was a technology we initially developed for the Summon service. So if we are able to directly link your users to the content using IEDL links, we'll go ahead and do that, and then it bypasses the link resolver. But as I mentioned, while we are able to provide IEDL links for hundreds of millions of items, there's lots of other items where we aren't able to actually provide an IEDL link for. In those cases, we are reliant on OpenURL linking. And so regardless of what link resolver you're using, it can be 360 Link with Summon, it can be any other link resolver with Summon. For those links that we don't have IEDL links, we just simply link you off to the link resolver, and it's up to the link resolver to then navigate, or the user to navigate through the link resolver to get to that full text.
Does anybody have any other additional questions for either Bonnie, Jeff, or Eddie? Just wait, as they potentially could be typing. One just came in. For you, Eddie, if there is a free database that doesn't currently work with the link resolver, will you work with the database creator to enhance that resource?
Yeah, we currently, 360 Link we feel has really the most comprehensive coverage of what we call linkers, or the ability to link to content. A number of those are paid resources, a number of those are free resources. We have a complete staff of folks in our Seattle office mostly who are working around the clock to just improve linking to content. Sometimes that means we're adding, if it's a new resource that we don't yet have a linker, we are more than willing to work on creating a linker for that content, and we're doing that every day. So every month or so you see, new linkers added and new capabilities to link to content that we weren't able to link to before. With that said, we have, as I mentioned, there were currently over 370 providers that we can do index enhanced direct linking for. That number continues to grow over time as well. So we continue, month over month to continue to add providers that we're able to use that technology to link to content.
Another question that just came in, are there any plans to update the 1.0 360 Link Helper window with some of the features of the sidebar?
So that is a good question. You're referring to in our for the last sort of 6 to 8 years or so, we have had what we call a one-click helper window in the sort of current 360 Link. That is, you can think of the new sidebar as a replacement for that. So we will not be doing any other enhancements to that. We've come out with the sidebar as a much more robust and feature-rich version of that sort of one-click technology we had before. And we'll also be continuing to provide improvements just to the what we would call the non-sidebar user experience of 360 Link as well.
Another question that just came in, will IEDL still use our database priority list?
Yes, with 360 Link, you are able to, prioritize your links, the order of your links. So if you have a resource available in more than one place, you're able to go in and set priority. The same priority list will impact both, whether it's an index enhanced direct link or an OpenURL link will follow your preferences that you set.
Okay, 2 questions that we can deal with. First one is, just to clarify, if my library already subscribes to 360 Link, then the sidebar is a free feature that can be enabled.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, the other question is, what can we do with publishers which show the FullText button even if the library is not subscribed to the content?
That I'm not sure I understand the question, so if we might want to follow up with that one offline since we're running low on time here. Sorry about that.
2 questions. The IEDL linking is working behind the scenes. We don't have to do anything to have that working, right?
That is correct. So we will automatically, just behind the scenes, 360 Link provides the most reliable link we have available. If it happens to be an IEDL link, that's what your users are presented with. If it's an OpenURL link, they'll get an OpenURL link for that content. And often we have both. We'll prioritize the IEDL links as being the most reliable and direct link to that content.
Okay, we have one more question, and this will be the last question of the session, and it's, will there be any enhancements to the 360 Link results page?
Yes, so as I mentioned, we are working on what you'll see rolling out in, this sort of a phased approach. So the sidebar was our first phase to get that out live, and many of our users are able to, have adopted that already and have been able to turn that on. Coming up over the next quarter or 2, you'll continue to see redesigns on the rest of the 360 Link results pages so that users will see a better experience there as well.
Okay, it looks like we're ready to wrap up today. I just want to give our presenters a virtual round of applause for spending time with us and sharing some great information. And as a reminder to everyone on the line, we have recorded today's program, so please be on the lookout for a follow-up email from ACRL and Choice That will include instructions on how to access the archived version. And thanks again to all our participants for joining us.